Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD Pro Physique Athlete. Today I'm going to be sharing my full hypertrophy program. This is a 4-day full body split. I've been completely revamping my training and testing out a new style. As you may know, I generally recommend people aim for moderate volumes and that you want to find a training volume that suits you. Some people will respond better to lower volume, higher intensity approaches, and some people will respond to higher volume, lower intensity. I've had a suspicion that I do respond well to lower volumes, and I'm testing out a low volume approach now to see if it can be more time efficient. You'll see that I've constructed this program with the idea of being time efficient. Not everyone has time for 2-hour workouts, so this is going to be applicable for a lot of people. And even if it may not be your absolute ideal training volume, sustainability is king in bodybuilding, and you really need to find a training approach that fits into your lifestyle. We'll start off with a program walkthrough where I'll share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself if you wanted to, including exercises, sets, and reps. Keep in mind that this is a very individualized program for myself and it's still undergoing a lot of changes, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of where I'm at. Next, we'll talk about the weekly layout or how I spread out the days across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of my personal 4-day hypertrophy program. All right, let's do a program walkthrough. This is Dr. Swole's personal 4-day hypertrophy program. It is a low volume, high intensity, full body split. We've got day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Here are the exercises and there are the sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets for each workout to give you an idea of workout length. And down here we have the total number of sets for each week. Let's start out with day 1. We kick it off with deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings. 2 sets, and I'm using a top set back off method here. So I'll work up to 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by a back off set of 5 to 8 reps as well, with about 10% off the bar. This allows me to get in some heavy work while still accumulating some volume with slightly lighter weights. Then we have an incline bench press for the chest, 2 sets of 6 to 10. And for this, after my second set, I'll do 2 drop sets of push-ups. You're gonna see me using a lot of intensity techniques in this program, and I'm basically using those to save time. This allows me to do slightly fewer sets overall while still getting a good stimulus. Then we have lat pull downs for the back, 2 sets. I've been using a top set back off method for this as well. 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by a back off set of 6 to 10 reps, although I'm probably gonna change this one. I've been getting some tendonitis in my forearm. Then we have dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, 2 sets of 8 to 15, followed by 3 rest pause sets of 3 to 5 reps. For these, I'm basically taking somewhere between 10 to 30 seconds in between, so I'm getting in some more volume while still staying close to failure. I'm approximating this as 3 total sets. Then we have cable curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 12 to 20. For most of the exercises in this program besides deadlifts and dips, I will do a couple of drop sets at the end. This allows me to accumulate some more stimulus in a time efficient way, and I include these even after my rest pause sets here. Day 2. Smith machine split squats for the glutes and hamstrings, but also the quads, 2 sets of 8 to 15, followed by barbell rows for the back, 2 sets of 8 to 12. Then we have machine flies for the chest, 2 sets of 8 to 12. Cable lateral raises, 2 sets of 8 to 15, followed by 3 rest pause sets again. I'm finding the rest pause sets work very well for side delts. Then we have cable press downs for the triceps, 3 sets of 6 to 15. Dumbbell curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 8 to 12. And finally, machine calf raises for the calves. And we're also using a rest pause scheme here. 1 main set of 10 to 20 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. And I'm approximating that as 5 straight sets. Note that for a lot of these exercises, I'm only doing a couple of sets. I've been finding this works well for me since I tend to be a fairly fast twitch athlete, so I accumulate fatigue quite quickly and tend to have my performance drop off across sets. So right now I'm actually finding the most bang for my buck just doing 2 sets of each exercise. Keep in mind that I am doing those drop sets afterwards. Drop sets are actually my favorite intensity technique, and that's because you're able to accumulate a little bit more volume and good stimulus while pushing the intensity but not accumulating as much fatigue or connective tissue damage as you would using the same heavier weights. It's a very versatile technique, and I also find it nice to know that you're going to be dropping the weight mentally. Okay, going on to day 3, we started with weighted dips for the triceps but also the chest. Just 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps. I'm using this as my main heavy chest movement of the program. Weighted dips are an awesome movement. They're a very natural movement pattern for the pecs, and they are one of the best calisthenics movements in terms of allowing for progressive overload. Then we have dumbbell pullovers for the back, 2 sets of 6 to 12, followed by leg extensions for the quads, 2 sets of 12 to 20, seated leg curls for the hamstrings, 2 sets of 6 to 15. Note that I give fairly broad rep ranges for some of these exercises, and this is because I'm using a wave loading progression structure. So in week 1 I might do sets of 15, then in week 2 I might do sets of 10 to 12, and then week 3 I might do sets of 6. And this is because the weight jumps on the cable stack lead to fairly big differences in reps. Then we have machine bench press for the chest, 2 sets of 8 to 15. Then we have dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts again, 2 sets of 8 to 15, followed by 3 rest pause sets of 3 to 5 reps. And those rest pause sets are using the same weight. Then we have lying bicep curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 6 to 10. These are like an incline curl except you're lying flat on your back on a horizontal bench. Okay, I just fixed a typo here. On day 4 we start off with hack squats for the quads, 2 sets of 10 to 15. Then we have leg press calf raises for the calves. 1 main set of 10 to 20 reps followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps using the same weight. And I'm approximating that as 5 straight sets. Then we have dumbbell overhead press, 2 sets of 5 to 8. These are mainly going to hit your anterior delts, but we'll also get a bit of upper pecs and triceps. Chest supported rows for the back, 2 sets of 10 to 20. Then we have cable lateral raises for the side delts, 2 sets of 10 to 20 reps, followed by 3 rest pause sets of 3 to 5 reps. Finally, we have incline skull crushers for the triceps, 3 sets of 6 to 12. And I find that changing the incline can give you a bit of a different force curve, which can give you some novelty. Let's go over the frequency for each muscle group in this training program. So starting off with quads. Quads are getting trained 3 times per week. Glutes and hamstrings are getting trained 3 times per week as well. Then we have chest, which is being trained 3 times per week, got in here in dips and machine bench press. Then we have back that's being trained in every workout, and this will reflect how we have a lot of control in a full body split. Side delts are also getting trained in every workout here. Biceps are getting trained 3 times per week. Triceps are getting trained twice per week. And finally, calves are getting trained twice per week as well. Okay, now that you've seen the program, let's go over my program layout. Full body splits are relatively easy in that you just want to spread out your rest days as much as possible. But I did design this program with a specific order of days in mind. You'll see that I start off my week with my priority day, which I have deadlifts on. So I want that day insulated by rest days. You'll also see that I make sure my glute and hamstring training is spread out over these 3 days. And my direct chest training is also spread out on these 3 days. This is because for me, these muscle groups don't recover that quickly. So ideally, I'd rather not have hamstring or chest workouts coming back to back. That being said, my schedule is very unpredictable. So this does happen sometimes since I'm shuffling around days randomly. You'll also see that I spread out my bicep work on these 3 days. And I spread out my calf and tricep work on these 2 days. Through a delicate balance of moving muscle groups around, I'm able to have a fairly consistent program. That is, I'm able to distribute my fatigue very well, but I'm still able to hit the frequency I want for all of my muscle groups. Let's talk about the pros and cons of my current full body hypertrophy program. Starting off with the pros. This program offers maximum customizability, and this is one of my favorite parts of the high frequency full body approach. Honestly, this isn't something I'd recommend for beginners because it is tricky to program. But when you have the experience and you know your body, you're able to optimize the program for each muscle group by tweaking individual muscle group set volumes and frequencies. This is a really powerful tool because ultimately all of your muscle groups are going to respond differently to the variables of training frequency, volume, and intensity. Next, this program features a high frequency for a lot of our muscle groups of 3 to 4 times per week. Frequency is more so useful for distributing a lot of training volume, but for myself, I'm using it to prioritize certain muscle groups, in particular back and side delts. Next, this program is very time efficient. I designed this program to be as compact as possible within the limits of my training parameters, and I did this by using low training volumes and high intensity with intensity techniques. For most of my exercises, except for the main compounds, I am going to failure on the last set for each exercise. And I am adding those drop sets in for most exercises. This allows me to squeeze out as much stimulus as possible in a relatively short frame of time. Lastly, this program has excellent fatigue distribution. That is, I spread out my training stress evenly. This becomes more important as you become more advanced. But for myself, I really need to spread out my training stress because if I had one really tough workout and a much easier workout, I just wouldn't perform as well overall in that tougher workout and I wouldn't be getting as much volume in for those later exercises. So I've designed things to spread out my fatigue as much as possible, so I'm really making the most of every set I'm doing in the gym. This is going to be in contrast to something like a bro split where you just have one really tough leg day and one much easier arm day in each week. Okay, now let's talk about cons of my personal hypertrophy program. First of all, this program does require auto-regulation. Auto-regulation is your ability to modify a workout on the fly as required in terms of your training intensity. A high-frequency full-body program isn't one where you can always just chase numbers based off of your logbook. There are some days when I'm training with overlapping soreness, and this takes experience to train through. If you're always pushing balls to the wall no matter what, eventually you're going to end up with chronic injuries from overuse. And this becomes more of an issue if you're dealing with high frequencies. So the high frequency full body split is really more of a late intermediate to advanced type of programming technique. So if you are a beginner, I'd recommend checking out my beginner program playlist. Now, one possible con I want to point out in this program is that I have very few sets per exercise, and this is slightly time inefficient. I know I told you I designed this program for time efficiency, but that was within the constraints of me having very few sets per exercise. The problem with this from a time perspective is that you have to switch machines all the time, and if you're in a busy gym, you will have to wait for machines. You will also spend more time warming up throughout your entire workout because you have more exercises to warm up with. If you really want to compact this further from a time perspective, I'd recommend having fewer exercises with relatively more sets. That way you could still accumulate the same number of sets across the whole week, but not spend as much time warming up and switching exercises. I personally just want to test out this new training style, but you may see me change things up in the next iteration. Finally, with full body training, some people will complain of getting less of a pump, and this is because you're not doing as many sets for each muscle in each workout. This isn't as big of a problem for more advanced athletes. For myself, I'm able to get a great pump even after just 1 or 2 sets, and this will come with good technique and mind-muscle connection. So I hope you guys learned something from my personal training programming. It's a way for me to showcase some more advanced styles. If you are an advanced bodybuilder really trying to maximize your muscle gains, check out my book, Advanced Hypertrophy Periodization. Periodization is the manipulation of programming variables over long scales of time to optimize progress. These concepts are going to be valuable for you to understand if you really want to get the best out of your physique. You can find the book on my website, askdrswole.com. If you want to see another one of my programs, check out this video where I share a full hypertrophy program where you'll see me using higher volumes. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to transform your physique and your life, and we'll see you next time.